Good morning. Welcome to our another edition of the Hindu Made Easy. In today's newspaper, what we can say that the major articles that we need to discuss, of course, the front page news, wherein we find that Supreme Court bench led by Chief Justice of India has given its very much uh, you could say indictment, supreme indictment. That is the headline of its editorial also. And another one is that Patna High Court has finds caste-based survey of Bihar government perfectly valid, allows resumption. That was so one news is that. Another one is that in communal violence in Haryana has reached Millennium City, Gurugram. Then in a spotlight section we have Western Ghat teenage girls Saudi, you could say, the investigation involving rape and murder of a teenage girl in Dharmasthala. That's a very famous Jain shrine in Western Ghat, where this article deals with that how in 2012 it happened, and in right now this year the lone accused has been acquitted by the court, saying that there is no proof of it. So whole thing that is in a spotlight section is a story that you know that if you look at in the golden hour how case can be lost by mishandling or purposefully creating something like in this case what we find that what the magistrate has observed is that in the golden hour itself the case was lost. So we'll go for that a spotlight bit more. And in editorial section, one important article is of course on Manipur supreme indictment we have. Another editorial is there on infrastructure parameters have shown positive signs, so it's a bit economics, too much economics, but you should read it. Then we have one good article on digital protection, digital public. Sorry, once again I am coming back. Digital personal data protection bill that is being introduced in the parliament, and how what sort of concerns are there regarding that is being discussed. So basically it's a digital personal data protection bill that is being introduced in this session of the parliament, and the activists and civil rights activists are having certain issues relating to its power given to amend the RTI, Right to Information Act 2005. So that we will go, and then we have articles in text and context section. We will deal with one is that climate article Holocene climate anomalies. What we find that they said that in July was the hottest month in this much years or something like that. So gouging of the temperature when thermometer was not there is very difficult, and it cannot be pinpointed to day rise of the temperature. So in a certain phase you can take out through the isotopes, carbon isotopes or lead isotopes, depending upon the situation. Another one important article is an old article, basically written by Siddharth Bhatia on the occasion of recently Vernon Gonsalves and Arun Ferreira's bail given by the Supreme Court after being incarcerated for 5 years in Bhima Koregaon case. So in the context of that, this is an old article. It was written at the time of their arrest by Siddharth Bhatia. It is being reprinted in text and context section by Hindu, citing the reasons that how this whole, it's a basically debate over UAP, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. That is the how much sweeping powers, and the Constituent Assembly had doubts about that our fundamental rights are of course not absolute in nature, and how it can be infringed by the state by applying various colonial draconian laws. And so it's a prime example of that very definition of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. No court of law can grant a bail, and how easy it's for the state and the prosecution to carry on the incarceration of the person, even if the person after say number of years he gets released and no evidence is found against him. So on that context it is written. We'll come back again to that. And so another article that we find of interest is that one we have Julian Assange. You might be knowing about Julian Assange was Julian Assange was the founder of WikiLeaks, who had made public US classified data, and US is in the process of extraditing him to from England to USA. He is right now in UK, being in fighting the extradition trial. And Australian Prime Minister has said that it is enough, and government of US should come down and let him breathe. But it seems that US government is adamant. Its foreign minister is also. Another one is Aung San Suu Kyi's the 33 years imprisonment that has been granted by the junta has they said that 6 years has been reduced from that. That's a news. So let us come again. We will start from freshly. We will start from the front page. Okay. So the front page leads with the Haryana. Imam killed in attack on mosque. Death toll rises to 5. Actually, violence started after Vishnu Parsad started a Jalabhisek Yatra in Mewat region of Haryana. It's already sensitive region, communally sensitive region, and there Jalabhisek Yatra started by Vishnu person led to communal clashes between minority communities and all. In a new region particularly, there was situation that paramilitary forces has to be called to control the situation. Now this violence led to furthering, it reached to not only Palbal but Gurugram also. That is Gurgama or Gurugram, whatever you call Gurugram. Let us call it Gurugram. So it's a Gurugram, that is millennium city of India. The violence reached there, and what happened that some miscreants, elements, bad elements burnt the only mosque that was there in sector 57, and imam of the mosque also died. So this is a very serious offense, and the news on this, as we know that CGI was having that led a bench of seeing the ethnic violence in Manipur, wherein it has found that the law and order situation has totally broken down. Constitutional machinery has broken down, and from May to July, this whole period, it seems that there was no law, no machinery. It's a very much indictment of the failure of the state government, because law and order is subject of the state government, and the state government totally failed. And Supreme Court bench had asked for the segregation of the more than 6,000 FIRs that had been filed. So it did not find enough, lots of lacunae found in these things, and for the next hearing, Supreme Court bench has called, that will be next hearing on August 7, and it has called for Director General of Police, Manipur, to present in a person and be able to answer the questions regarding this whole carried off failure of law and order, breakdown of machinery. It's a say the absolute breakdown of constitutional machinery in the state for such a long period of time, and what were the measures taken and why the action is yet not taken in appropriate manner. Because the representative of the Kuki Jomuk have said it in unequivocal terms that they have no faith in the local police capability and to investigate the crime either in the CBI, and neither in the CBI they have any faith. So the court has proposed investigation in its own investigation team that will look into the matter, and we will wait for the next hearing, that is on August 7, when DGP will present and answer the questions regarding the absolute breakdown of constitutional machinery in the state. Another news, go for the one important news, is that in regarding Bihar, Republic of Bihar, as you know it, her birthplace of Republic, and it's also known as the Republic of Bihar, has started a caste-based survey of its people. it is not a caste census, because census is in the central list, and only central government can go for a census. We are having a due census is due to corona and all. It has not happened, so census is due. But our census, caste-based census, was last held in 1931 by Britishers only, and after that there was no such caste-based census. Now thing is that we know that class is an euphemism for caste. In our constitutional mechanism, we have reservation based on caste. So the Bihar government has come out with the estimation of the exact number of people belonging to particular caste, because there are so many demarcation within that only. Other backward classes, extremely backward classes, Dalit, Mahadalit, economically weaker section. So these are all are the aspects that the state government wanted to have an estimation of the numbers, because so much time has elapsed since the last caste census happened. They had earlier appealed to the central government to go for a caste census, but after independence we don't have a caste census in India. We had census regularly 10 years, but we don't have a caste census. So it is not a caste census, it's basically caste survey, caste count you could say, and economical viability of the things like that. So the people had went to High Court against this state government's decision, and High Court had given interim stay of the process, but had said that the data should be preserved. And now it has given the order, and it said that it's okay, government can go ahead with its program. Now we come to our this briefly again I discuss the points that were that spotlight section. It's a 17-year-old Saujanya was raped and killed in Dharmasthala in 2012. The lone accused in the case was recently acquitted, and the family of the girl struggles with no sense of closure to their huge loss. The writer meets the family and looks at how investigation was bossed at various stages. The girl was Dharmasthala in Western Ghat region. Is a holy places of Jain. Bahubali you might have heard of. Jain Tirthankar, whose is single stone large statue is there. That area, it's a very pilgrimage spot. It is there, and what happened that one evening everything was gone for this girl child. So in the very beginning, when the 50th additional city and Sessions Judge Children's Court made scathing comments on how the investigation was botched up at the very start. The investigation was not properly conducted in the golden hour. The doctor who collected the vaginal swab virtually demolished the entire case of the prosecution at the inception itself. And later on what happened, you read this article to realize that how law can be compromised and how it becomes very much a dream for a commoner to, if powerful people are involved, to get justice. So what happened, local police case was handed over to CID and later on to the CBI. Even the CBI was unable to get the conviction or the reason, because lots of abstractions, lots of aberrations are there in the case. Even the witnesses were died in the mysterious circumstances, leading to the claim that some powerful people who were being accused by the family of the girl were being protected by the state. And so this is one of the cases that you will find that where justice goes in vain and people are still having no trust in the whole process of justice. So now we come to our editorial section. In the editorial section we have that one editorial, as I said, that it is regarding, and the title is Supreme Indictment. It's a editorial says that after Supreme Court bench so much indictment and saying that it's absolute breakdown of constitutional machinery in the state for such a long period of time, for virtually 3 months. This absolute breakdown of law machinery, mechanism of law, constitutional machinery, law and order, has the Chief Minister has no right to stay put. But the editorial says that Biren Singh, the Chief Minister of Manipur, is being backed by Bharatiya Janata Party, and some vested regions, they don't want to replace him. Ideally should have resigned from the position, because the state face such a large scale ethnic violence and breakdown of law and order, constitutional machinery. So it is now crisis of faith, trust among the community, those who have lived for thousands of years together in a certain areas. So this whole system is very much questioned by, and Supreme Court is looking into the matter for further measures, so that in a democracy, this sort of situation should not reoccur. It's a known fact that large-scale violence, communal violence, the history of communal classes in India suggests that mob violence for a prolonged period is possible only with the state connivance. Otherwise, it is not possible. So, this is the one of the, after the Supreme Court's remarks on Manipur, the BJP must replace the CM. That is the crux of the matter of the editorial. Another one editorial, you will read it. There is a government effort to boost infrastructure is yielding results. That the government has invested lots of money on fresh infrastructure, green field projects and all, and that is being now paying dividends. So you read this one. Now we come to our, this editorial is the dangers in digital personal data protection bill. You should be knowing that the digital personal data protection bill that is being tabled in the parliament this session, civil rights activists are having some very much reservations regarding the right to amend RTI Act within this bill itself. The Digital Personal Data Protection Bill mandates it can go for, because see, they say that under the RTI Act, you know, the Right to Information Act was a brainchild of Arna Roy, who struggled in Rajasthan, and it was passed in 2005. It has given lots of power to common citizenry regarding the access to the information. So this RTI Act has its own provisions of that if a certain information is related to personal nature or something like that, then it can be denied. Now thing is that the activist says that they have the mechanisms, already prevalent mechanism within the RTI Act, so there was no need to amend that one. But they have amended data protection. The digital personal data protection bill has this mechanism one, that they will amend the RTI Act, wherein they have defined personal thing in a very broad perspective, where will it become very difficult to procure information, because it can be easily, by information officers, can be easily proclaimed that it relates to his personal privacy and things like that. Another issue that has been raised in this article is regarding the creation of the Data Protection Board. Data Protection Board will be there to see that Digital Personal Data Protection Act, that will become it. Now it is a bill, Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, Digital Data Protection Bill or Act, when it will become. So this Data Protection Board will be looking after its implementation aspects. Huge powers. It can fine up to 500 crore rupees on an individual for violating its laws and things like that. Now the thing is that this Digital Data Protection Board itself is being manned by the government. It will be another case pilot that will be used against the opposition and vested interests, those who are searching for the truth in the vast mechanism of the governance system. So this two aspects are being dealt. That Digital Data Protection Bill, that is there. Personal data we don't have any personal data protection bill. Okay, now we have, it is going to be Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, and we have this one aspect, that is the overriding the Right to Information Act regarding the nature of the information being cited is the personal. So what is the personal? It can be an institution, it can be a company or something like so. Broad division of the things altogether. It is the whole purpose. It appears according to the writer to defy, to disclose not to disclose and things like that. And then data protection board is also being not autonomous or something like that. It is again government institution where it will work as a caged parrot with a discretionary powers to hold on this. So this is the, you will read it, the dangers in the digital personal data protection bill. That is important article developing a story. Then we have in the text context section, one article that is there, the Holocene climate anomalies. You might be aware of that recent some headlines proclaimed recently that a particular day in July was the warmest in more than 100,000 years. It says that this is not it's a fake news. It says that it is not scientifically possible to make such a claim. They say that scientifically it is not possible to make such a claim. Temperature estimates from before thermometers were invented are derived from paleoproxies. What is paleoproxy? The use of paleoproxy based on biological and chemical signatures, okay, can provide insight into temperature anomalies over longer time scales such as centuries or thousands of years. However, they cannot accurately determine daily temperatures due to mixing process in ocean and lakes. So it says that we cannot get an exact data of a particular time or moment in such a manner. It is not quite possible. So it's saying that this particular day in July was the warmest in 100,000 years. It's a wrong saying. Scientifically, it's incorrect. It says that it emphasizes that modern societies have placed a considerable amount of trust in their scientists. Modern societies have placed a considerable amount of trust in their scientists, and balancing accurate and reliable information with climate action can ensure trust in societies, government, and initiative addressing the consequences of climate change. Squandering this trust could render irreversible damage to the efforts. Squandering means misutilization of the things will break down the trust. It will create trust deficit among the common people. So our people should be knowing that what is possible and what is practical, what is scientifically proven. Then because we have a lot of faith on our scientists. So read it. Another article you will read, that one is the How Can Amended Forest Conservation Act Change? What can amended Forest Conservation Act change? Basically, the definition of forest itself changes. Social forestry, individual plantation gardens are also being included. In the another regions are that in border areas, forest can be used for buffer zone of the forest can be used and the things. So it's some contentious issues are there in the Forest Amendment Act Forest Amendment Act change that has been occurred. Then one article written by Gautam Bhatia is Bhima Koregaon and UP. It's an old article striking the balance between security and rights. Security means security of the state and rights of the individual, fundamental rights. We know that Constitutional Assembly gave us our fundamental rights, but we know that it is not an absolute fundamental right. Our fundamental rights are by nature not absolute. So it's an old, it was published in 2018, but again it has published this article in the context of recent bail order given by Supreme Court to Vernon Gonsalves and Arun Ferreira after being incarcerated for 5 years in Bhima Koregaon case. Pune police had charge sheeted them, and what it says that this article emphasizes that it takes reference from Constituent Assembly debates, that there it was contested by many people that we are borrowing the colonial legacy of this draconian law, wherein it will not safeguard the fundamental rights of the citizens. So UAPA is like TADA, Terrorist Activist Prevention Act, TADA, that was also draconian, that was changed. So it says the article that UAPA should also Supreme Court should come forward and take measures to make it humanistic, because lots of features are there that makes it virtually impossible if the state decides to implicate someone on the charges of sedition or under the act of UAPA. So Unlawful Activities Prevention Act it's a very difficult to get the bail. Virtually no court can grant you bail, and if it shows that you belong to a particular organization that is being banned or that is being a terrorist organization, but proving to be the membership of the organization, very contentious issue. Having a book, having participated in a seminar or something like that may constitute as the you are the criminal. So it says that if in the trial stage itself, if the court finds that prima facie state's opinion about the subject is such and such, then they cannot grant the bail. So it's a draconian nature of the UAPA and its impact, that if it is being, it was kept in the constitution for exceptional cases, that in case of a state's security at a stake, national security is being not being jeopardized or something like that, in that case it will be used. But nowadays it seems like that its uses are being selective in nature. And as you know that our criminal justice system is so much takes time and things like that, so process itself becomes the punishment. So you should read, and we shall be going further on this Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and it's how does it infringe fundamental rights of citizens. Then we have news I said about the Julian Assange also, that Julian Assange was the WikiLeaks founder, very much the extra maverick hacker, you could say, who had hacked the US classified data and put on the public domain. People came to know lots of shenanigans of the US government that had indulged in other countries, killing and things like that. So he is an Australian citizen and he is in Britain right now fighting for extradition to the US. Australian PM has said that he is that no, Julian Assange should not be extradited to US, but it seems that US is adamant on taking him to the US, where he will be incarcerated for 100 years. He will never be able to see the sun. Another news we will conclude with that Myanmar junta saves off 6 years from Suu Kyi's 33-year prison sentence. You know that Aung San Suu Kyi was given 33 years prison on different charges, and she had an absolute majority in the house. She was democratically elected. She is a Nobel laureate. She is the daughter of Aung San, who was the father of Myanmar's freedom struggle. And in this 78-year-old lady is being, it seems like that she is a living Nelson Mandela. And what they have did is that, okay, fine, we have reduced 6 years of the terms. And she has been placed in a government accommodation after health concerns were raised about her being in the prison for such a long time. She has been solitary confinement for more than very much years. She has suffering. She is the epitome of Aung San Suu Kyi is an epitome of suffering for democratic causes for her motherland. So we can conclude it by saying thank you very much for. Please read the newspaper regularly. It will be helping you to understand in a very less time and all. So thank you very much for joining this session of the Hindu Mediji.